on to the US now. In America, the H-1b visa controversy kicking up a storm of sorts amid job cuts and hardline immigration policies. And now the latest US payroll data painting a rather worrying picture for foreign nationals working in America, especially Indians, who in fact have been living under that cloud of uncertainty. Just days ago, Republican Congresswoman calling for ending the H-1b visas for Indians, accusing them of replacing foreign jobs. Green statement came amid the ongoing political debate around work visas and job opportunities for international talent in the US market. While her comments have sparked concern amid Indian working professionals and students in the US universities, the latest data from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics reportedly suggesting that of all sectors, Indian techies could be hit the hardest. Let's just break this down for you. In August 2025, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reportedly downgraded the previous job estimates, stating that close to 300,000 jobs reported for the months of May and June had not materialized. In July, the figures hit a new low, with only over 70,000 new jobs added, thus marking the weakest performance since the COVID-19 pandemic since 2020. Clearly, America is on the verge of a job meltdown in a way, further dampened by economic gloom. But that's about Americans. Sectors like tech, hiring most numbers of skilled immigrant professionals, more specifically and mostly Indians. According to the National Foundation for America policy, Indian nationals received 72% of the H-1b visas in recent years. And top firms are readjusting their employment policies reportedly to keep up with the firing spree. And there's more. As per Bloomberg, more than 200,000 tech workers were laid off in the US between November 2022 and January 2023. Of these, almost 30 to 40% affected were Indian IT professionals. Close to 80,000 Indian workers, H-1b and L-1 visas, have faced job losses since late 2022. However, it's not just job losses that are drawing attention, but also some stringent measures around it. Reports suggesting in a recent regulation, many H-1b professionals are left with just 60 days to find a new employer post being laid off and before being forced to leave the country reportedly, leaving them with just these options, basically to either find a new job or leave the country under deportation proceedings, thus completely upturning the 60-day discretionary grace period as per the previous norms. And this is a huge dent in a way to the ambitions of the Indian nationals who over the years have also made up the largest group of H-1b recipients, accounting for 72% of all approvals reportedly, followed by Chinese nationals at 12%. But what does all of this really mean for the United States, which remains heavily dependent on Indian diaspora and global tech professionals for fueling innovations in the realm of tech, AI, and the proof is handy. Just last month, Meta's new AI research arm was revealed to be led entirely by immigrant researchers, including experts from India, China, South Africa, the UK, Australia, each with advanced degree holders, high-level experiences and specializations. Difficult to match if Americans with unequal credentials were to replace them, perhaps. Will such a sweeping stroke realistically set America on the back foot in its global technological war against superpowers like China? And can it turn the clock back on its pool of talent built meticulously with special hires world over, something which needs immediate thinking? It could be the most consequential handshake of the year. The stage is being set. Trump and Putin face to face again. Only this time, the stakes could not be higher. Trump and Putin are slated to hold direct talks in the coming days, and if reports are correct, their meeting could happen as soon as the 11th of August. It's been a dramatic day in global diplomacy, in fact. The Russian president was busy on the phone today, first with the Indian Prime Minister, then with the Chinese president. And these calls came just hours after the Russian presidential aide, Yuri Yushakov, confirmed that Moscow and Washington had agreed on a Trump-Putin summit. What's the plan? Sometime next week, but the final date depends on how the talks unfold in the run-up. And here's the trigger. On August 6th, special U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff visited Moscow and held a 3-hour meeting with Vladimir Putin. Now, according to Fox News, the summit may happen in Rome on August 11. But the Russians are not sold on the venue, according to TASS, which is Russia's official news agency. Rome is out of the question. The Russians, it seems, do not want Europe to be the stage for this meeting. In fact, it makes sense because the timing of this meeting could not be more critical. US President Donald Trump has started a trade war. He has become frustrated that he has not been able to stop the Ukraine war. And as a result, he has turned that frustration inward, in a way, towards his allies, it seems. India, which has continued to buy Russian oil, is facing a massive 50% tariff from the US. Trump claims India's purchases are fueling Putin's war machine. But if this move was intended to twist New Delhi's arm, it's not working. India has not buckled. Instead, New Delhi has remained in dialogue with Russia, engaging BRICS partner Brazil, even finding common ground with China. In the face of Trump's trade tantrums, Indian officials have made it clear that Indian companies are free to source from whoever they want. But as is evident, Trump's tariff war might just be his way of trying to pressurize Putin through India, using New Delhi's Russia ties to push Moscow into a corner. And India is not alone, by the way. China, though granted a brief extension, is also on Trump's radar. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Modi had this to say after speaking with Putin. Just hours ago, he tweeted, I'm quoting here, had a very good and detailed conversation with my friend, President Putin. I thanked him for sharing the latest developments on Ukraine. We also reviewed the progress in our bilateral agenda and reaffirmed our commitment to further deepen the India-Russia special and privileged strategic partnership. I look forward to hosting President Putin in India later this year, quote unquote. On China's side, President Xi Jinping laid out his position, and according to Reuters, Xi Jinping told Putin that China will continue to promote peace talks and that it is glad to see Russia and America remain in contact and improve relations. The two sides, China and Russia, also reinforced their mutual trust and strategic coordination, pledging to work closely on the upcoming Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in Tianjin. What about Europe? According to European analysts, Trump-Putin meeting is the best shot at peace in years. They say that if the meeting does not go ahead, war on Ukraine will face a very bad situation.
If this meeting next week does not take place, we at least are confronted with a very bad situation for Ukraine, because it does mean that the Russian offensive goes on from the air and on the ground, which does mean that the cities will be bombed every single night, as long as the Russians have the drones and the means for that, which they do have. For the Americans, in particular Mr. Trump, it does mean that he can't go home with the laureate and say, I brought peace to Ukraine, and which does mean that he has to do something now against Russia, which he tries to avoid since his presidency.
And the Polish Prime Minister also weighed in. Listen in.
There are certain signals, and I also have an intuition, that perhaps a freeze in the conflict, I don't want to say the end of the war, but a freeze in the conflict is closer than it is further away. There are hopes for this. The Ukrainian side is very keen for Europe, including Poland, to participate in the planning of this future ceasefire and subsequently peace.
What about the country at war, Ukraine? Well, the president says he is very cautious but optimistic. He says that talks should also involve Ukraine.
Everyone obviously knows for sure that the key decisions in Russia are made by one person, and that this person is afraid of sanctions from the United States of America, and that it is right for Ukraine to be a participant in the negotiations. Russia's war is against Ukraine, against our independence as the embodiment of the independence of every European nation.
Now let's talk numbers. Trump's deadline for a ceasefire deal expiring on August 8th, that's today. And if Putin does not agree, the US is ready to slap 100% tariffs on any country buying Russian oil. But Putin remains unfazed, it seems. He believes that Russia is winning. According to reports, Moscow does not think more sanctions will do much. What with 3.5 years of war, countless economic penalties already in place. And here's what's happening on the ground here. Russia has captured 502 square kilometers of Ukraine in July alone. And that is some of the biggest gains of 2025. In total, Russia now controls about a fifth of Ukrainian territory. There's been heavy casualties on both sides. Even Russian military bloggers say that the summer offensive has been slow and bloody, especially in dense urban terrain. But Putin's goal is clear: complete control of Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, Kherson, and then only then will he talk peace. So can Trump deliver the breakthrough that the world is waiting for, is the question. And will Trump pass Putin's test? Users of ChatGPT's free version woke up to find the latest version of OpenAI's chatbot, GPT5, on their phones. In an unprecedented move, GPT5 has been offered to all users, not just those on paid plans. And the OpenAI CEO, Sam Altman, hailed GPT5 as the best model in the world. Microsoft CEO, meanwhile, announcing the integration of GPT-5 across platforms like Copilot and others. Not to be outdone, Elon Musk replying to Nadella's ex post, warning that OpenAI could eat Microsoft alive, quote unquote. GPT-5 is OpenAI's first unified model that basically consolidates the task-specific abilities of different series and combines that with the speed of previous GPT series. It's like a one-stop shop for everyone that can also accomplish tasks for users, eliminating the need to create an AI agent. OpenAI CEO has said that GPT-5 excels in writing, coding, finance, even healthcare tasks. It's been trained to give safer, more accurate responses. With over 5,000 hours of safety testing, the model is now less likely to hallucinate or make stuff up. Interestingly, GPT-5 can choose to decline to answer a question if it detects risk to the user or others. Altman described GPT-5 as having a team of PhD-level experts in your pocket, quote unquote.
Before, maybe it was like talking to a college student. Real intelligence, real utility. But with GPT-5, now it's like talking to an expert, a legitimate PhD-level expert in anything, any area you need, on demand, that can help you with whatever your goals are.
OpenAI also demonstrated vibe coding, a feature that lets users build apps just by writing a simple prompt. In one test, GPT-5 built 2 language learning apps in seconds with flashcards, quizzes, progress trackers. The model is now rolling out to ChatGPT's free Plus Pro and Team users, with enterprise clients to follow next week. On to Myanmar now. Fresh research suggesting Myanmar's military is using advanced European technology to protect its military drones from interference. According to a report by the UK-based Conflict Armament Research, Myanmar military obtained anti-jamming technology made in Europe through a Chinese company. The researchers also reportedly documented downed military drones in Kaya State in the country's east. What did they feature? advanced navigation modules that protect the drones from jamming and signal spoofing. Besides that, evidence of similar technology used in Chin State near the country's western border has also been found, implying that efforts have been made to weaponize the UAVs for precision strikes. And this is despite the Myanmar military being under extensive European Union sanctions and an EU arms embargo since the early 1990s, reportedly. And the latest revelation prompting calls for sanctions against the junta to be tightened further. What's more, as per reports from an independent conflict monitor tracking global conflicts, Myanmar now ranks third globally for the number of drone events in a conflict zone after Ukraine and Russia. In the past, the Myanmar military has been criticized for conducting brutal and indiscriminate aerial campaigns and bomb both resistance forces and civilians, reportedly. In fact, Myanmar's war from the sky has been building up only since the start of the conflict in 2021, when the military seized power in a coup. And over the past year or so, there has been a notable shift in the military's aerial combat strategy, with the junta heavily invested in incorporating jets, helicopters, paramotors and drone technology in war arsenal to beat opposition groups at their own game of popularizing such weaponry. Even as further restrictions were imposed after the 2021 military coup, with the United Nations also passing a resolution calling on states to prevent the flow of arms into Myanmar. However, campaigners say the sanction measures remain inconsistent across the EU, impacting enforcement, thus bringing Myanmar one step closer in the global drone arms race with the latest upgrades. But the reality being all of this coming at a grave human cost.